Hello, my name is Anuska and welcome to my channel. Welcome to this week's video, which is all about varying volume. And I was inspired to do this video because this is something I have been working on with a recent private client. And I thought this could be really valuable for all of you out there who are speaking in public. How many of you vary your volume much when you speak? Is it something that you rarely do? What I find when I work with speakers is they often have sort of one default volume. And then if they are required to speak quieter, what they tend to do is they tend to go quite breathy and light and airy. And then if they're required to speak louder, it tends to be a bit strained, a bit pushed, and a bit squeezed. Now, neither of those, whatever end of the spectrum you're on, is a sustainable way to use your voice. The voice is going to tire. And also, you want to be able to vary your volume, not only for storytelling, so you can add sort of light and shade to your story, but also so you can vary your volume. So if you're talking in front of one person, you don't shout at them. And if you're talking in front of a room full of people, let's say you're not mic'd, then you don't feel like you need to really push and squeeze your voice to get it out there. So I'm going to be addressing this today and looking at how you can find more ease in your voice to speak louder and how you can still maintain that clarity and being understood in your voice if you speak quieter. I just want to make a quick point too about mics as well, because obviously when you get to a certain size room, let's say you're talking at a big conference, you're going to be mic'd. But what I do want to say, and it's really important, and I say this as well being a singer, the microphone isn't a magician. It doesn't transform your voice. It doesn't transform the tone of your voice. It just amplifies what you put into it. So if you put a strained voice into a mic, you're just amplifying a strained voice. Put a breathy voice into a mic, you're just amplifying a breathy voice. And I think sometimes when we're not trained with our voice, we think the microphone is just going to be this magic instrument that's going to literally change the tone of our voice. But we're responsible for what we put into the mic, and the mic will just amplify whatever goes in. So I have done a couple of other videos on volume, and I'm going to put the links below. Now, but there's one particular video you might find interesting if you're someone that finds it hard to actually be able to gauge, am I shouting? Am I speaking loudly enough? Am I speaking too quiet? So I actually share an exercise in one of my videos, which I'll put the link below, where you can actually start to become more aware and build the greater awareness of your own volume. Because there are people that shout and don't realize they shout, and there are people also that just talk very quietly, and I don't think they realize how quietly they speak. So we want people to be able to hear us, obviously. So before we get into the practical side of today's video, I just wanted to say that varying volume, whether we're going louder or quieter, is a big topic. There are many variables to this. It's not just do this and then you can speak louder, or just do this and then you can speak quieter. There's lots of things at play. There's lots of things happening at the same time. And then it's learning how to navigate all of that in your own voice. So for this reason, if when I'm going through this video, you think, this is something actually I really need some help with, I highly recommend working privately with a voice coach. It's going to be the quickest way to get the result. Because if you try and do it yourself, it is so hard. And in all honesty, having worked with hundreds and thousands of people over the years, you're probably not going to have the awareness to know what actually you need to be putting the time into and developing and what you don't. But to put it very simply, the freer your voice, the easier it is to vary the volume. So that's probably the biggest takeaway. Freeing your voice is the most important thing. And that's basically what I do with clients. I help them to free their voice, because there's so many ways in which we constrict, hold back, suppress our voice. So that is the biggest thing. But I'm going to share with you now 6 things you want to consider when learning to vary your volume. Now, this is regardless of whether you're trying to speak louder or quieter. So the first one, which I've kind of alluded to already, is you want to warm up your voice. So we can't have a free voice if it hasn't been warmed up. Much like you go to the gym, you're going to have a much more successful workout if you do a warm-up first, or you go for a run. It's the same with your voice. So particularly speaking louder is demanding on the instrument. So you want to warm up your voice. Now, I've done videos on this. I will link them below. So please do warm your voice up. It will honestly make a big difference to the ease and functionality of your voice. Number 2, and I did a video on this last week because this is such a big topic and I talk about it all the time with all my clients, is your speaking pitch matters. So if you are speaking too low or even too high, but I think for most people that I seem to come across and work with, it's usually their speaking pitch is on the lower end. And that is, again, because we associate it with more authority. You're going to really struggle to project your voice. You are going to have to push and strain your voice to get it out there if your pitch is too low. Likewise, if you're trying to vary the volume and speak quieter, you're not going to have the control over your voice if it's really low. So you want to work on finding your optimal speaking range and get used to speaking there. And then varying your volume is going to be so much easier. So I did a video on that last week, so I highly recommend that you check that one out. Number 3, your voice is powered by your breath, which I think most people are aware of, that the breath is the kind of power source of the voice. But what I see with a lot of speakers, particularly untrained speakers, is they tend to breathe very shallow and high in the chest. It's like this, and they tend to use their shoulders for breathing versus the belly moving in and out for breathing. So it's really where we're driving the voice almost from the belly. And again, I've done videos on breathing for speaking or voice use in general, because it's the same with singing as well. And it's really important. It's really important to allow, coming back to the freedom and ease in the voice, we're freeing the voice. If we're breathing too high, we're going to create a lot of tension around the voice. So we're just going to find it very, very hard, again, particularly to increase the volume if we're breathing too shallow, too high, and we're not really grounded and powering the voice from that deeper place. Number 4 is another video I've done about articulation and intentional articulation. This is so important. I mean, articulation, without stating the obvious, is going to obviously allow people to understand you and for your voice to have more clarity. But also the other thing about articulation is it really allows the voice to be powered in a very effortless way. So whether you are trying to speak loudly or quietly, intentionally articulating is going to do a lot of the work for you. It's going to help your voice naturally amplify and just project so much more effortlessly. I can't tell you, it makes such a difference. So again, I've done a video on that. Number 5, and these aren't in any particular order. I always say this because I just write them in the way that they come into my head, but they're all important. So number 5 is postural alignment. Now this is regardless of whether you're standing or sitting when you're speaking. But if your spine isn't straight, if your head's kind of doing weird things when you're talking, if your chin's up, your chin's down, your head's kind of crooked, you aren't going to allow that freedom in the voice. So coming back to the voice wants to be free. We want that open channel. And the position of the head is so critical to the freedom and ease in our voice. We're going to be putting a lot of load on the neck if the head is not balanced on top of the body. So regardless of whether you're sitting or standing, you want to make sure that your head is properly balanced on top of your shoulders and that you are fully supporting your body through your feet. Again, I've done a whole video on that, so I won't spend too much time, but just to be aware, all of these things, if they're off, are going to hinder the free movement of the voice. And then finally, number 6, remember that your voice is a full body instrument. And one of the things that I see again is that because the larynx, which is the voice box, which you could argue is the voice, lives in the throat, often we think that this is our voice. And in a way, it is our voice, but you've really got to start to see your whole body as your instrument. Because if you see your instrument as just the larynx in the throat, that's when you start pushing from here. That's when this becomes the center of everything that you do. Whereas actually what I say to clients is, see your instrument, almost forget that the larynx is here, because we actually really want this fairly relaxed. We want the neck relaxed. We don't really want any engagement through the shoulders, the chest, the neck. So really start to see your voice as being powered from the belly, but actually the instrument is really at the end of your lips. Which sounds a bit weird, but you really have to stop thinking about the voice being in your neck, because that's actually where a lot of people's problems arise from, because they're putting too much constriction, too much squeeze, too much press through the throat and the neck. And that's when they struggle to project without straining, for example. Or even just speaking very light and breathy, there's nothing powering the voice. So let me give you some very practical exercises now. So first of all, let's look at increasing volume, because this is a big one. And again, we're assuming here you're not mic'd. But as I said earlier, regardless of whether you're mic'd, you are responsible for the quality of voice you put into that mic. The mic is not a magician. It's not going to change your voice and make it sound amazing. You are responsible for what you put into the mic. So it's really important that you learn how to increase volume without a mic. And then when you have a mic, oh my God, it just is like amazing. And I find this as a singer, I feel like I barely have to put any effort into singing when I have a mic, because I'm so used to finding that power in my voice without a mic, that when I have the mic, it's like, oh, I can just almost have a little sleep here. So it's brilliant. It really is worth doing, because then when you have the mic, it feels so effortless. As I kind of already mentioned, a common issue I see with speakers is when they are asked to speak up, the natural reaction, and this isn't a criticism, this is what you would do, is I need to actually push my voice. I need to sort of do something to my voice. I need to push, I need to strain, I need to reach. And it normally involves the neck or the throat, or even the shoulders, but rarely does it involve powering the voice from the belly, and rarely does it involve really bringing the sound forward. It usually is necky. It's very necky, usually, and results in that very sort of strained, squeezed, pushed sound. Now, as mentioned, if your pitch is too low, you are probably going to be forced to push your voice out to be heard, because there's not a lot else you can do from a low pitch. And ultimately, all of this just creates a lot of unnecessary tension, which we don't want. Coming back to what I said before, the secret to finding effortless volume and variation of volume is a free voice. So we're trying to eliminate any unnecessary tension and constriction in any part of the vocal mechanism. So first of all, we're going to practice the sort of voice-breath connection, because I think for a lot of people, they don't have that. So we need to start there. So one of the easiest ways to do this is, I'd like you to say psh, psh, which is a PSH if we were to spell it, psh. And as you say psh, I want you to draw your belly in slowly and gently. So the belly is being pulled in as you are saying psh, and then just allow the belly to pop back out again. It will do it on its own. You don't need to do anything to push the belly back out. Just let it pop back out. But then you draw it in again. So it's almost like a little bit of a pump. Psh, psh, psh. While you're doing this, the only thing that should be moving is your belly and your lips and your tongue. All of this is relaxed, is soft, is relaxed. It's not getting involved at all. So just make sure that that is the only parts of your body that are really engaged. And just notice when you do that, how much power you get in your voice when you do it like that, versus if you don't engage your belly and you were just to do it from sort of pushing through the upper chest. It's quite a limited sound that you can get, versus when we draw the belly in and we bring the sound forward, we can get a lot of power behind the voice. Now we're going to replace psh with a word, because obviously you're not going to go around saying psh. I mean, you might, but it's not going to get you very far. So we're going to replace psh with the word yeah. And I want you to do exactly the same thing, but you're just going to say yeah instead of psh. So as you say yeah, you're going to draw the belly in. Yeah, yeah. And just notice the difference it makes when you pull the belly in. And again, you're thinking, you're bringing the sound forward. You're not pulling the sound back as you say it. Just notice the power that you get in your voice with minimal effort. And then finally, to make this more useful for you, because you're not going to go around saying yeah necessarily, we're going to just put it into a sentence. And then you can actually put whatever sentence or paragraph or whatever you want to practice this on. I'm just going to replace the yeah with good morning, everyone, because that might be something you might start a meeting with potentially. So as you say it, you're going to pull the belly in. You're going to bring the sound forward. You're going to think forward at the end of your lips. Remember, nothing going on here. And just with all of those other things we mentioned before we started doing this, just think about your articulation, think about your pitch, and then just drive the sound forward. Good morning, everyone. And just notice the difference between that and when you don't engage the belly, and how much more effort it is. So of course you do need to practice this, particularly if you're not used to engaging your belly when you speak, because it's going to make a massive difference to how easy or not your voice is to project. But of course, as I mentioned, make sure the articulation is still there and you don't drop the pitch too low. But then I promise you the voice will start to come out. I mean, there's other things too, but these are the main things that you want to consider. Now, reducing volume. This is particularly important if you are sitting next to someone, having a one-to-one meeting, having a private conversation, having a confidential conversation that you don't want the whole world to hear. So being able to vary your volume then is going to be so useful, so you're not shouting down someone's ear. Now, as I mentioned earlier, often when people reduce volume, their immediate reaction would be to go breathy, light, and airy. So if I was to reduce my volume now, I might talk like this. Hi, my name's Anuska, and welcome to my video. So immediately my pitch usually drops, it goes very breathy, it goes very airy, but you probably can't really hear me that well, so it's not actually very useful. And then most likely the person that I'm talking to will say, what? So we want the voice to still carry, we want the clarity, we want to be understood, we just don't want to talk as loudly. The other thing about using your voice like that, in that breathy, airy way, is it's going to tire. It's not, the voice isn't happy being in that place for any length of time. So whether you're straining and pushing your voice or whether you're going breathy and airy on a regular basis, it's not going to be conducive to a long-lasting, happy, healthy voice. So that's the other reason. There's obviously the sort of the engagement factors in this, and wanting people to really connect to you as a speaker, but everything I do also comes back to vocal health and vocal longevity. Here's a little exercise for you to try. So first of all, I want you to imagine that you've got a single candle in front of you and you're trying to blow it out as you say, so this is the letter F. So you're not going to be going, because you don't need that much effort. So imagine the candle is kind of right here and you're just trying to blow it out. So it's very soft, it's very gentle. Remember to engage your belly and remember to think forward as you do this. So you're not pulling the sound back. It's at the end of your lips. Now then we're going to add some voice to that. So still we're thinking about blowing a single candle out right in front of you. And we're going to do this on like a V, a V. So again, we don't need a lot of pressure behind this, but do engage your belly. So you're just trying to blow out a single candle. And again, just notice how that feels. Notice what is engaging in your body when you do that. Hopefully it's just your belly and your lips are moving. Now we're going to add some actual words to this. So we're going to count from 1 to 5. Remembering what I said about articulation, really important that you keep the clarity when you reduce the volume. So you don't let the articulation go out of the window because you're speaking quieter. So I'd like you to still imagine, well, you're not blowing a candle out anymore, but imagine there's someone like right in front of you. So you don't need to speak particularly loudly, but we still want to maintain that clarity. So we're going to practice saying 1 to 5, but with that easy voice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not pushing the voice. I can be understood. I'm not going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've still got that clarity in my voice. I've still got that strength in my voice. I've just reduced the volume. Now let's put this into an actual sentence that you might say versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And imagine that you are sitting next to someone and you need to tell them something confidential. So you don't want anyone else to hear, just the person next to you, but you need them to understand you because you don't want to have to repeat yourself 20 times. So again, remembering we want to engage the belly. We want to make sure the pitch isn't dropping. We want to articulate clearly, bring the sound forward. And I'm just making the sentence up. You can practice with anything. I'm going to say, I need to talk to you about a serious incident. So I'm going to imagine the person's right next to me. I need to talk to you about a serious incident versus I need to talk to you about a serious incident. So you can hear the difference. There is strength, there's clarity in that version versus the breathy, airy, light version. That is healthier for the voice. So lots to think about here. And as I mentioned, if this is something that you know is a problem for you, something that you struggle with, definitely find a voice coach to help you, because honestly, you could move through this so quickly with some guidance, tips, and advice for your voice and how to apply it in your voice. Just a reminder that I do offer private voice coaching. I do online coaching, so you can be anywhere in the world. I work with people around the world. If you are in the UK, I'm in London. If you are in London or in the UK, I also now offer private VIP days. So you can work with me for half a day or a full day in person, and we can actually go through all of this. And if you're not in London, I can still offer them, but there would be additional travel costs involved. But if you're interested, I'm going to put a link below with more information. But do get in contact, because whether you want to work with me in person or online, I can absolutely help you with this. And it would be the quickest way to actually learn to vary your volume, is just to work privately rather than trying to work it out for yourself, because it just gets so complicated. There are so many factors involved. But anyway, I hope this video has been really useful. I really appreciate all of you that watch my videos, that subscribe, that like, that share. Please continue to do so. Also, if there is any topics you'd like me to cover, always do comment. I would love to provide content that I know that you are particularly interested in. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.